All right, I'm here with Cheech. I'm actually going to have the guardian grab the camera. I want you to shoot a little Cheech, and then she'll come back to me while I talk a little bit. This is Cheech. Cheech is very fearful. And so in this video, we're going to share some tips that you can use if you have a dog that's very fearful about meeting new people. All right, so we'll adjust the camera again, and I'm just going to kind of go right into it. So Cheech, basically, when he first saw me, he barked a little bit, and then he ran away. One of his guardians, being a good, considerate host, kind of admonished Cheech a little bit. He's like, no, don't bark. The problem with that is all attention's validating and rewarding for dogs, number one, but Cheech is also communicating like, freak out time, blue shirt man is here, we don't know who he is, make him go away. And what he probably does is barks at people, and then you feel bad or they feel bad and they leave, so the barking becomes validated. In his case, he's barking because he wants me to go away. And so we want him to know that I'm a good person, but I can't just go pick him up and pet him. That's called flooding if I'm forcing myself on him to prove to him that I'm a good person. I have to demonstrate I'm a good person through my actions. Now, I've been here for about almost 3 hours now, and I have not petted him once. But now he will come over to me and he will take treats off of my shoe, and that's something that most people are like, big deal, but the guardian's like, I'm impressed with how much progress he's made, but I'm trying, when he looks at me in my eyes, I avert my eyes. I'm not trying to pet him. I'm not trying to talk to him. I'm avoiding a bunch of sudden movements. If you have somebody coming over and they have a hacking cough or they're sneezing a lot, that sneeze is going to catch him off guard and it's going to send him off not in a good direction. So I believe he has cortisol in his blood, and right now he's looking good. He's got what we call sleepy eyes. He just laid down. He's sniffing. He's drinking in the smells around him. Those are things that we don't do if we're in a panic state. So cortisol is a stress hormone. It goes into our blood and it prepares us for fight or flight. So it really essentially almost shuts down all non-essential body functions. So your hair stops growing, you stop digesting food, your cells stop repairing. This is why dogs that are overly stressed, or humans, will lose their appetite. And the guardians here, when I first came in, said, nope, he won't take treats. Well, he did take my treats. I had to use the highest level treats. And just so we have it here in case I forget, these are Stewart's freeze-dried liver treats. You can order them on Amazon in a big bucket that's about 30, 35 bucks. It's kind of a teal color, and it's Stewart's freeze-dried beef liver. When you get those, chop those up and use a serrated edge knife. I mean, literally the size of like a BB, as small as you can get, and save that dust. You can use that as a topper. I'll talk about his food in the other video. In this one, I just want to focus on interacting with people. So when you're meeting people and they come into his home, they're invading his territory. So what I would prefer to have you do when you have guests come over, and if you can, cheat. Don't just have a guest come over for a dinner party. Let's say you're going to have some people come over for a dinner party. Have them come over a couple of times just to hang out and drink. You have a beautiful little lanai out here. Drink a couple of cocktails, lemonade or whatever. Have them come by one at a time. Have them text you when they get here. Hey, yeah, and just invite your good friends so you don't feel like you're imposing on them. Why don't you walk 2 houses up and just be standing there. I'm going to bring Cheech out on a leash, and we'll just walk towards you. When we get to you, just walk with us. And then walk around the block. So Cheech gets to meet you where he's walking towards your guest as opposed to your guest invading his space. We don't think about it, but if we come into a dog's house, they're trapped. They can't leave the house. So now the dog is like, somebody's coming in here and I can't run away. That makes me feel more uncomfortable. But we're going on a walk. There's a million escape routes. There's the sights and sounds. There's the smell of the flowers. There's the neighbors. There's the birds chirping. There's the ocean current and all that fun stuff. Not current, but all that stuff is a distraction for your dog. So instead of focusing on the boogeyman that just came in my house, I'm moving forward. My environment's changing. The person is not trying to pet me. They're not looking at me. The person should completely ignore Cheech. Now, if you have the Stewart's freeze-dried beef liver, I would probably not even do this until the end of the walk, but it may at least the halfway part of the walk. And I might actually have them drop a piece of them if Cheech is behind you. Now, the way we position it is I was here, the guardian was here, and she was holding leash, and Cheech was kind of walking behind us in between us. What I'd have you do is do that walk, and if you can, have at some point, if Cheech is with you and the leash is loose, hand the leash to your friend, but tell your friend not to pull and tug on him. You're just walking together. And so maybe somewhere around the halfway point on the block, if Cheech feels pretty comfortable, you hand them a leash, you continue walking the same way. So for him, it shouldn't be that much of a distinction, but you do have them on, they're holding the leash. When you come in, I would actually probably come outside for your first greeting since you have such a beautiful backyard. Walk through your driveway. You don't have to walk in the house. And they're the ones holding the leash with Cheech. Now, this doesn't look like a lot for Cheech, but this is an emotional roller coaster. So just because he's going to be exhausted after I leave, even though he's done mostly sitting and laying down during this, like riding on an actual roller coaster, you don't do a lot, but you're burning a lot of calories because of the intensity of the activity. This is a very intense activity for him. So I would come back here and sit in the shade, make sure he has some water, and and then we're going to look at trying to describe multiple things at once. Let me kind of slow down. So again, sit down, have the person hold on the leash. Don't let him run away. If he wants to run away, if he really freaks out, let him go. But ideally, it'd be nice if he can kind of stay here, and then they have the Stewart's freeze-dried beef liver, and they can throw the treats towards him. Now, I'm kind of motioning towards him, and his ears perked up in a way like of him saying, I like what you're doing. Now, you're doing this, don't throw the treats so they hit him in the face, number one. And we always focus on so he just got up and took a half step towards me. Now, I can throw a treat a little bit closer and have him come a little bit closer to me. But like that lean over that I did is something I really don't want to do. If you drop a treat in the wrong place and you're watching this as going to be a guest, just let it sit there. Don't try to pick it up. So he just came and took a step towards me, and then he grabbed the treat and he walked away. Now, sometimes I will throw the treats just between me and him, but every once in a while, I might actually throw the treat behind him. Why am I throwing the treat behind him? I want to give him the ability to kind of get a bit of a reset. And so if I'm only asking him to come closer and closer to me, I'm asking for something that's pretty intense and pretty hard for him to do. You got to throw him a bone every once in a while. So if he gets stuck, throw the treat behind him. If he's freaking out, you can just give him a whole bunch of treats. If he'll take the treats. If he won't take the treats, it's his way of saying it's too intense. So, and you might have the visit, I prefer to have the visit short. So you have the person out here, you're just having a nice conversation. We always want to end on a high note. So basically what you might do is when you're getting ready to leave, instead of him seeing the person get up, standing up is a confrontational position. So the person should try to be seated, not a lot of big movements. They have somebody that really talks with their hands, have them sit on their hands, or don't use that person at first. Pick your easy targets first. We want to build positive associations on top of another one, on top of another one, and have him not freak out or feel insecure or uncomfortable throughout because we're managing the situation for him. So what would be nice for you to do is for you, when you get done, is you leave your guest here and be careful because we always want to say goodbye and hugs and all this. Hey, we're not going to go through the departure ritual. It was so nice seeing you. I'm really looking forward to you coming back again next Tuesday, and I'm going to make some, God, what's that drink I'm thinking of? It's a Latin drink that clear.
Sangria?
No, it's clear, and it's got like the leaves in it.
Tequila? Mojito.
Mojito.
Yeah.
We'll make some mojitos. And then you take him and go inside. He doesn't see your guest get up. When he's inside, then your guest gets up and leaves and walks through the driveway. So he doesn't see the guest standing up, which is can be off-putting for him. So he had a nice experience. He met the person randomly in his mind on a walk. We went for a walk together. They held the leash. The person threw me some of the freeze-dried treats. And then after like 10 or 15 minutes, we go inside and when I come back out, the person's gone. And he'll probably go and sniff where the person was, and that's great. But we're not asking for more than he can deal with. Next meeting, same thing. Meet on a walk. Oh, it's you again? And now this person that maybe is dropping the treats a little bit faster on the walk. And then you give the person the leash. Second or third walk, it'd be nice if they could do what I did. Now make sure you pick people that you trust. The person should not be trying, I'm gonna come back in holding your dog. That's not what we're looking for. So tell the person, look, all I want you to do is walk with him. I don't want you to try to pet him. Please don't even try. And tell them that, because otherwise people are going to try to do things for you and show you, look how good I was with your dog. I'm trying to help you. Just say, look, I picked you specifically because you're not going to be one of those people who's going to try to pick up my dog and do more than my dog can do. All I want my dog to do is get used to walking with somebody. So you are going to meet the same way, go for half a walk, and then halfway on that to get to the halfway point, you're going to hand them a leash, keep on walking, and then basically you're going to walk back. You cross the street, kind of like what you did, and you go back to your house and have that person walk. Now, I don't want them dragging him, but they will have to give him a little bit of a tug, but not a pull. So tug and just kind of a let's go. Now, a little tip for you, every time you start walking, I want you to say, let's go. You're here and you're going to go to the bathroom and you know he's going to follow you. Let's go and walk. I want let's go to become a cue that means we're walking. And when you use it a lot, if they say, let's go, he's going, oh, we're walking. It just kind of becomes second nature. And tell the person when you're walking, if he wants to sniff, stop and let him sniff as much as he wants to. So we want him to have a good experience with this person. So they come back, and now you come back here, and now you have mojitos. Maybe you hang out a little bit more, you toss some treats. Now this time you might want to get a lick mat. Now put the lick mat a little bit further away and have a lick mat that has, I would get one with suction cups, so when you eventually do this inside, you can put it down, although he's not that big. Some dogs will take it around. And basically put peanut butter or cream cheese or frozen yogurt on it, and do this a couple times independent of any guests. No stress. Let him get used to it so he enjoys doing this activity. Then what you want to do is when the guest is over here, and the guest again is not moving a lot, not talking too loud, and we give him some treats, then you put over a little bit further away the lick mat. He gets to lick the lick mat while the person's here, but again, we're outside, so he feels more relaxed and comfortable. And he went for a little bit of a mini walk with that person. The person could drop some treats on their shoe like I did as well, but if he doesn't eat off the shoe, that's okay. It's not a race. We just would like to see him eating the treats. If he's just eating the treats, that's a win. Now, if we are going to incorporate medication that we talked about, you should start seeing that become a little bit easier and easier. But we'd like him to have good experiences where he is, right now he's staring at me. I looked at him, I looked away because he's giving me direct eye contact. So that's polite for me to do for him, so I'm not challenging him. Now for people, front facing is confrontational. Leaning over a dog is intimidating, and reaching over, petting a dog on top of the head is a lot. And for him, even just a hand coming towards him is going to be a lot. So when you want to get to the point where you want to see if he'll come to you, the person should try to position themselves to the side, and then they would offer a treat, and I'm going to kind of gradually shift myself here, and I would offer a treat like this with my hand low off to the side and low. Now he's not coming towards it. He looked at it and then he looked away, and that's his way of saying, nope, I don't have any interest. That's way too much for me to do. But ideally, when he gets to the point where he's comfortable with the person, then we want them holding a treat out at nose level, but out to their side, and they're not looking at him, they're not calling him. When he comes over, if he licks it off their hand, they should keep their hand there. Don't move their hand, and do not try to pet him. A lot of times they'll come and take the treat, and they'll run away and chew it, and they're like, oh, the hand's still there? I'll come back. There's nothing there, but then they might sample the person a little bit and smell them a little bit. And then the person, if he won't take the treat, they can just throw him a treat. Just getting him to take treats is the important part at this stage. Now, we can also do things to introduce him via scent. So I did this with my puppy before I got him, is I mowed the lawn, and I took a wet cloth, and I wiped down all my sweat on the cloth. I put it in a Ziploc bag, and I mailed it to my breeder along with a bag of treats. She pulled out the cloth when I wasn't there. He sniffed it, and she said yes, and gave him a treat. Yes, treat. Yes, treat. After a while, she said, David, sniff, treat. David, sniff, treat. When I met him a week later, all of his puppy Dalmatians ran up and jumped up on top of me. After 60 seconds, they all ran away except for him. He nuzzled. He knew who I was. So if you can introduce him to somebody's scent before they arrive and pair it with something positive like treats that he really likes, you're making him feel more and more relaxed and comfortable. And now he's met that person without the pressure of the actual person's presence, their movement, their voice, and all the rest of that stuff. And it's just a nice, easy way to ease him into it. Now, again, when you have guests come over, it wouldn't be until, I wouldn't take, if you can, I would probably try to avoid even going in the house until he's taking treats. Doesn't have to take from their hand, but at least taking even whatever treats are, the highest value treat you need to get. But he needs to be able to take the treats before we go inside, because when you go inside, that changes the dynamic tremendously. And he's probably going to want to run and hide under the bed. Now he's practicing avoidance, and he's not practicing being around the person. Now, I don't want to use a leash and flood him because, no, please. I don't want to cause it to be a negative experience. That's why it's important we go slow and at his pace. So now he's on leash, and he's actually going to follow one of his buddies, or he's thinking about it. But he's been here for so long, he's not used to, he actually could go away where he doesn't, and let's see, now he's thinking about it. So he's good. All right, so he's just shaking it off. That can be an anxiety shake. So if you see a dog shake it off, I like to pet him. That's kind of a good thing. And he sat down, and he's looking at me. He's got a nice closed mouth. So let's talk about his body language. So for dogs, dogs have something called cutoff signals. Now, right now, his ears are actually demonstrating it. When they first started, they were up, and then they started kind of going a little bit to the side and back. So kind of like they're up here, and then they kind of went like this. And so for him, when you see his ears going back, that could be an indication he feels uncomfortable. Dog cutoff signals often include lowering the head, turning away, lowering the head and turning away, looking at you while not looking at you from like what we call side eye, We call this whale eye. You see a lot of white in their eye. Refusing to look at you, refusing to come to you. Baring their teeth is a pretty obvious cutoff signal. If you're trying to reach for them and they withdraw, or if you're trying to trim their nails, they pull their paw back, that's a cutoff signal as well. He could roll over on his back and say, please don't touch me. That's being submissive. Don't touch him when he's doing that. Now, some dogs will roll over and say, I want you to rub my belly. That's different. They can be the same action in different capacities. So the idea is to look for his cutoff signals. Also his eyes. He's right now doing what we call sleepy eyes. Kind of looks like he's squinting. That's a good positive body mechanic. Hard open eyes that are unblinking and staring at you, that's not a good one. Now usually dogs go from open mouth, wiggly and jiggly, nose up to that's a big warning. So if you see him going from wiggly and jiggly to stiff and still, that's a warning. Now for him, he goes into his flight mode and his frightened mode, and I think his ears pinned back and he just runs, his tail's tucked, and he's running underneath the couch. So we'd like to see him with those ears up and see those body mechanics. Now, and again, just because he closes his mouth doesn't mean it's a bad thing. But if he goes from open mouth to closed mouth and gets stiff and still, that is a combination where I'm going to take a little bit more attention to. Oh, look, he's laying on the little base for the umbrella here, and he's got his paw down and he's resting his chin on his paw. He's tired, but it tells me that he's content. Now his body language, however, is pointed in my direction. For dogs, front facing is confrontational, sideways is approachable, behind us we're defenseless. So if I want to meet a fearful dog, I turn sideways and I lower myself down, and if I extend my hand, I extend it out to the side without looking. And I wait for the dog to initiate the contact. I don't go chasing after the dog. So that feels relaxed and comfortable. If a dog, I use how many moves the dog has to go to get into a run to determine whether or not they're comfortable or not comfortable. So at first he was standing and he was behind the couch, and then he was underneath the couch, but he's still standing. If he sat or lied down, he did it from a pretty good distance. When he did it, he was facing me, so I wasn't going to catch him by surprise. So if you see him turn and or he lays out sideways to somebody, that's a good indicator. If he turns away from them, even more of an indicator. If he sits, that's a good indication he's feeling comfortable. If he lays down, feeling comfortable. But if he lays down and he sits, but he's facing the person, I'm comfortable, but I'm still got my eye on you, buddy. But when you see him turn and his back, or he comes over here, the other day I had a client that came over, the dog came and sat, and he was facing this way, back towards me. I mean, it's a very vulnerable position. He was saying, hey man, you're my guy. So if we can learn to recognize his body language, and somebody's going to do something and he starts to indicate, like the person starts to list like they're going to get up, and his ears go back and he gets stiff and closes his mouth, you're like, oh, can you hold on a sec? And then you get up and call him with you, and you go into the other room, and then when you close the door, you say, okay, go ahead. And then your friend goes to the bathroom. I know that seems convoluted. That's why you want to have your friends doing this instead of a random guest. You don't mind asking your friends to do it. When it comes to behavior modification, what we're trying to do for dogs is help them practice the new desired behavior by creating scenarios where it's easy for them to offer that behavior, while at the same time not allowing him to practice the unwanted behavior, because we manage the environment. We don't have people come over. If somebody's coming over, they're not listening to him. He's on a walk. He's in the bedroom getting cuddles or whatever it is. Careful. So that way we make sure that he doesn't need to manage his environment, because we're managing it for him. Now, and just same thing for him. Just because he's comfortable with us, I'm not in his inner circle yet, but his guardians are partners. Just because they've held each other's hands doesn't mean they can hold each other's hand whenever. They might be mad at their partner. No, you don't get my hand only privileges right now. Dogs don't always like to be petted. Sometimes they're content. So something we do is a consent check. So I'm petting a dog like this, and I think that he might be done. I might hold my hand over there and go like this. Does the dog come over and put his chin on me? Then he's saying, I want some more. If I'm doing this and I go like this and he doesn't, I'm content. And the more that I listen to him and he gets what he wants, the more relaxed and confident he is in his environment and with his people. And this is why now that I'm not, he can move away, he could run away, as he's choosing not to. He's got his tuchus underneath the couch a little bit, but most of him is out, and he's not staring at me. He's looking at his environment. So if he's aware of the flowers and the birds and everything else, that's a good sign. If he's just staring at the person, probably not feeling very comfortable. So having people throw him treats is a really great way to do it. I would love to have you guys teach him how to play catch. Now, the way I do this is I have somebody sitting next to the dog. So if you're the camera, is I have somebody sitting right next to it. And what I try to do is I don't go like this, 1, 2, and the dog starts looking and it hits him on the head. So we just do have one throw and try to throw it so good that it goes just right in the dog's mouth. And if not, it's going to hit him on the head and fall on the ground. The person there picks it up and gives it back to the throwing person, which should also be somebody that the dog is comfortable with. And sometimes I have to actually throw it by my hand like that, so I'm getting used to tracking that arc. But if a person picks up the treat, he doesn't get it, and then we try it again, throw it again, throw it again. Eventually, when he catches it, say your marker word. Teaching a dog like him to play catch is invaluable because he can interact with a guest at whatever distance he feels comfortable, and something positive happens when he's doing this. So you're throwing the treat, he snags it. If he doesn't feel comfortable, he moves further away. I got to throw the treat farther. But eventually he probably is going to come closer and closer because something good is happening. You need to make sure your guests understand, even if he comes up and sniffs you, don't pet him. Even if he comes up and sits next to you, don't pet him. If you get to the point where he's coming up to you frequently and hanging out and sitting and he's giving you sleepy eyes, he's not stiff, then I would slowly, and when I mean slowly, I move like I'm underwater. I'm going to hold my hand out to him, but I'm not going to go like towards him, front-facing, confrontational. So if he's over here, I might hold my hand out slowly, and if he touches it, then I might flip it over and let him have a treat. We'd love to get him eating treats out of people's hands, but if he won't, being able to play fetch with him is a great way for him to feel comfortable. So we did talk about medications. I think they're going to really be helpful. I'd like to also see the guardians practice teaching him some different cues. We'll go over that in a separate video. This one, I just wanted you to have something on how to introduce some people and some rules for the people to have. And again, make sure they're people that are going to listen to you. If they're not going to listen to you, don't have them do it, because we don't want to have 1 step forward and 2 steps back because somebody undoes some progress, meaning well, but not being an expert when it comes to dog behavior. All right, if you want to grab the camera, you can zoom it over to Cheech and say, this is my buddy Cheech. And these are some tips that you can use for dogs who are not big fans of meeting new people.